podcast.
You listen to Kendrick and Matt on the Slip and Dip podcast.
Oh, beautiful, man.
Woo! Episode 120 Slip and Dip podcast back in your life. Kendrick Johnson, Matthew Wells.
What up?
Giving you everything. Found out who the real BMF is last night of UFC. And we also saw Canelo Alvarez show why he is one of the best boxers of all time. And he could quite possibly be pound for pound number one as he becomes a 4-division champion before the age of 30. I don't care what sport you're in. If you're a certified Hall of Famer before you turn 30, you a bad person. And that's exactly what he did. He's officially punched his ticket last night. Not that he needed much to the resume, but that is definitely the crown achievement of young Canelo Alvarez, who's 29 years old, resume. What's your take on everything, boxing and UFC? And we'll break down for y'all the craziness that was the timing of things, the crazy stoppage, as we have great guests on the show. We have Matt the Immortal Brown, who'll be at UFC 245. He fights in 3 weeks. And, of course, our man, friend of the show, one of the best MMA sports journalists in the world today, Mr. James Lynch, the face of the score. He gave us all the breakdown. He was in the arena. He was in MSG in the Garden last night. So please look forward to those interviews, as those are very telling of what is going on in the MMA world today. So what's your take on everything?
100%. Yeah, we're not going to talk about UFC 244 on this intro because we talk about that in depth with James Lynch for about damn near an hour. So in this intro, we're just going to stick to boxing and what Canelo. But the crazy thing is UFC 244 had an effect on Canelo and Kovalev, and that part we will talk about. Because
a lot of angry boxing people. My phone was blowing up last night.
Boxing people, but if you're a fan of both, you loved it because you didn't have to go to screen it somewhere. You didn't have to do the. You didn't have to do none of that. You didn't have to. You didn't have to break your neck.
I have on the laptop, so I do this. I do the.
Bro, like I have my screens laid out across here.
I have my TV. So I have my TV and I have on my laptop.
I'm like a tennis match. I'm like a tennis match when there's multiple things going on. So I, for one, appreciated the fact that they waited. But it is kind of crazy.
And they actually showed the UFC fight inside
that made
Garden.
it better.
Now, that was crazy.
That made it better.
That's what pissed off a lot of hardcore boxing people. They basically said boxing, UFC would never do that for boxing, which is true. They never would. And you got the great little Ellaby. Floyd would never do that.
That is also true. That is also true. I agree with that 100%. But again, if you're a fan of both, if you're a fan of the UFC and you're in the arena for that Canelo fight, how can you not appreciate it? But again, it's not going to rub everybody the right way. So the fact that they had to wait, I don't know, how long did they have to wait?
About an hour.
It was about an hour.
Like you literally see Kovalev and Canelo taking naps.
Like they warmed up and had to like basically take a nap and then get warmed up again after the BMF title was concluded and everything. But that leads us to the fight that ultimately did happen. It started around 12:20 a.m. Central Standard Time is when the first round actually started, which is very late. Very, very late. But, hey, the fight got underway. So let's talk about the fight itself.
But before
we get to the finish.
But the thing is, I've been to fights in Vegas from Floyd that haven't started until like 11-something Vegas time. Like Mayweather McGregor didn't start till close to midnight Vegas time.
Yeah.
So I don't see why
it wasn't the latest fight in the world, but I mean, still, the fact that they had to wait an hour and then it started, it made it feel later than it really was, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
At least the clock spun back.
yeah, exactly, right?
Of all weekends.
Got that hour back. Yeah. No, it's so the fight itself, man, the way it was playing out, personally, I don't know how you scored it, but I had Kovalev up rounds. I had him up rounds. I'm going to pull up my scorecard here.
I stopped scoring midway, but I had it about even until the knockout. I had Canelo by 1 point. It was a very close fight.
Scores were all over the place on Twitter, as expected.
But you couldn't have more than one boxer. You couldn't have him up more than 2 rounds either way.
I had him up more than 2 rounds.
I'm crazy.
I'm not crazy, sir. People were giving Canelo rounds where it's like, he landed maybe 2 clean punches that whole round. So you give him the round.
But what about that feeler jab? That's how he was hitting.
If I hit you with a feeler jab 30 times, that counts for something.
But what's that? I talked to Bob Bennett. He said MMA and boxing, the glaring blows score more.
Of course.
Canelo had glaring blows.
Sorry.
Multiple.
Here's the thing too, as well. If you were listening to the commentary, the commentators are making it seem like Canelo didn't miss a single punch. Yeah, they made it seem like every punch landed. He got the best. He's Floyd. I heard they literally Floyd throughout the Floyd Mayweather reference. Like, come on.
The only thing about Floyd, I would say that Canelo, him fighting Floyd has turned him to a different beast. It's like you never want to take an L, but if you have to take one L, I guarantee you, if he was scripting his career, hey Canelo, you're gonna lose one fight, and this is gonna be who it's to, in this way. Yeah. That way, that's the best way you would script a loss.
Yeah, and people were saying like, listen, I'm not mad at the scorecards either way, but the fact that so many people had Canelo up big too. I'm like, Canelo was like, what are y'all watching? What are y'all watching?
It was an even fight all the way through.
Like I had it in 97, 93, as you can see here on the screen, before it was ended in the 11th by that vicious KO. And which brings up another point. Because people
not no count.
Listen,
all my boxing fans, they should at least count it. Dude didn't move for 2 minutes.
Listen, people. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube,
and the referee's trained to know this.
We've got the clip playing for you.
The referee's trained to know when somebody's out. He was out.
He was hurt right there. That hook right there hurt him. That first overhand right hook hurt him. He gets hurt again there.
A perfect punch. He was out.
And he's out.
He's shaking.
He's out.
He's shaking. He's
not there. He's not there. And then, listen, I'm really thinking about just leaving all these dumbass Facebook groups I'm in. And even on Twitter, I saw it on Twitter from people that are credentialed media. I saw credentialed media talking about that look fake. Like, yeah, I'm not putting names to it because I will respect you like that. But to claim that he took a dive,
this is boxing.
Like, what are you talking about?
The MMA mentality. That's normal.
What are you talking about?
I've heard people say judges got paid in
Watch
middle fights.
Watch the clip. He gets rocked with the overhand right 3 punches before he gets dropped. What are you talking about? To the body. That one right there. He's hurt. He's hurt right there. He's hurt. Left hook. He took a dive? Bro.
That's boxing people for you.
Y'all are goddamn insane. I mean, oh my God. And that's putting it mildly, because I just want to go all the way off cussing right now. To all you people claiming that was fake, or that Canelo, or it was like somebody gave Kovalev the signal to go down. Like, bro, what are y'all talking about? Y'all are
I would say that stuff like that has happened in boxing before. It just didn't happen. It has happened
in boxing.
It didn't happen last night,
a long time ago.
But it happened last night, though.
Sure as hell didn't happen. Sure as hell didn't happen.
But I'm more on the side of people talking about Canelo's legacy. First of all, he's like a he's like a LeBron James. Let him finish his career before you can fully gauge his legacy. And I'm one of the few people that's legitly right down the middle of Canelo. I've seen him fight 7 times in person. I've been to his training in his personal house. I've interviewed him multiple times one-on-one. His team likes me. They call me the Texas Moreno, aka the Texas brother. I done love for the team Alvarez. But when you look at his legacy right now, you can actually put him pound for pound. He has the best resume in boxing. Hands down.
Of course.
But there's a caveat. You can't sit there and say, well, Floyd fought him when he was too young. He was only 23. Floyd was 36. Last night, Kovalev was 37. And if you look at Canelo's fights since he's fought Floyd, he has not fought anybody within 2.5 years his age. He's always been the younger fighter. So how can you be the best fighter of your generation when you have fought nobody in your age bracket?
I hear you on that.
And that's neutral. You take his resume, like I say, he's a surefire Hall of Famer. Not take anything from him. And now people stop talking about how Floyd used to cherry pick his opponents. There's a reason of all them people at 175 that he fought washed up Kovalev. There's a reason. They're saying he wasn't trying to fight the same fight 2.5 years ago before Andre Ward put that book out on how to beat this man. And then
I agree.
Kovalev knocked him out.
I agree Kovalev would have approached the fight differently before the Ward fight, if that happened then. But yeah. I still had Kovalev winning the fight up until the moment he wasn't, and the ref had to be like, "All right, somebody get the doctor in here." But yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, Canelo, he's actually approaching the territory where we got to start talking about best Mexican fighters of all time. He's in that.
I think he's already in there.
You think he's the best of all time?
Yeah.
Man, that's something to argue about right there. But
look at his resume, though.
look at his resume, yeah, but you still
and the competition.
The number of fights, the number of title defenses, you got to start looking at those sort of things.
Yes
as well.
and no, but look at the weight classes he's doing in. A lot of Mexican fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez did welterweight below. He's been undisputed middleweight champion, as controversial that was. Only one other Mexican fighter has got a belt at light heavyweight. He just got that last night. Only 3 or 4 of them has got 175. Got 4 titles in 4 weight classes. He's got that, but he's the only one that's got 2 above middleweight. What else does he got to do? And he's not even 30.
The argument to that is you can't. I mean, you can't like these other guys. You know, you can't use how big they are against them.
Yeah, but the higher the weight class, the more difficult it is, though.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then look at the names you got. So you got to pull me out. I think he's beaten at least 5 Hall of Famers. And I think I'm being light on that. Give me 1 sec. I can tell you the future Hall of Famers he's beaten. I think there's like 5 of them. Last time I checked.
Interesting.
Koloff Hall of Famer. He's a 3-time heavyweight champion. Yeah. Triple G Hall of Famer beat him. 2. Miguel Cotto Hall of Famer beat him.
3.
And Shane Mosley future Hall of Famer beat him.
4. All right, come on, give me a 5th. Give me a 5th. Squeeze one out. Let me hear it.
Maybe Danny Jacobs. It's gonna be close.
He's got 4. No disrespect to Danny Jacobs. I don't think he's there just yet. He's still got time though.
Still got time.
But yeah, I mean, look, Canelo did Canelo things at the end of the day, right? You know.
Now, nobody was surprised that it ended the way it did in brutal fashion.
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, 100%.
The crazy thing is, to me, even more impressive, I saw him fight Amir Khan and James Kirkland, guys that are way smaller. And Amir Khan, if you look at the fight, Canelo didn't win a single round because he knew he had to time him out, and that's what he did. He basically fought similar against a bigger guy and still got the same result. That was what made it more impressive to me, the fact that he waited to time this guy out, who outweighs him a good 15, 20 pounds, and he did what he had to do.
I mean, look, Canelo is just racking up all that change, man. Racking up all those coins. He's just chilling. Him and Oscar don't talk to each other. I mean, these dudes.
Do you got athletic? I actually want to be a Mike Carpenter article. Not really a fan of him, but I heard that article was fire though. I gotta read the article.
I didn't read the article, but I mean, I hear enough from other people, like the good folks at the corner between Kel and Andreas, about what's going on behind the scenes with that. And basically, I don't even know if Canelo gave Oscar, the whole in the hallway. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think he got that much.
But the thing with Canelo though, he should get mad at himself because in the big picture, Canelo's about the money. Canelo capped himself off because he didn't bet on himself. Like I say that he's got $265 million guaranteed. Just imagine this. I was talking to somebody on the way coming here, literally. If he was doing the pay-per-view model. If he fights Earl a year and a half from now, if Earl goes to pre-car accident mode and doesn't take any losses, he fights somebody like a Jermell Charlo here in Texas. All those multi-50 to 75, maybe $100 million guaranteed fights offer like 1 night's of work. He could be on that 40 level money-wise, but he's capped at this 375. I say cap, which is bad to say, but he should have betted on himself. He should have betted on himself if he really want to make that Floyd Mayweather money.
Fuck all that Floyd Mayweather talk. Look,
tell him that now. That's what he's got about.
Enough money, bro.
That's what he's got
enough money. If I'm Canelo, I'm going the Canelo route because look, I got a ton of money, and I don't have to take any. I don't have to be nearly as risky with my fights.
No, but he's upset though.
I mean, is he? Is he really that upset?
And another thing too, I
think he's just saying that for the camera. I don't think he's that upset at the end of the day.
Yeah. Here's another thing that people don't realize. A lot of people don't know why this fight's like basically going head up with the UFC. There's a lot of people don't know that are underground that dictated that this fight happened last night because those same people are the ones that paid out the $140 million to Anthony Joshua, Canelo, Danny Jacobs, and Ruiz. They like, we can't be doing that in the same month again within a 3-week span. No, sir. So basically, Canelo had to fight that. Basically, it's like, Canelo, you're on the November payroll. So they want to get that November money out to him. And then they separated because Joshua and Ruiz, shocker, it's a whole month later, 5 weeks later, and they do them in December. That's how the money moves with the zone. And for all y'all people, the zone is a fraud. Like, oh, they took a hit, waiting on Canelo, waiting on the UFC to start. That app's not going nowhere. It's got money that we don't even know but it's there. Billions of dollars. It's not going nowhere. Knowing what I know. A lot of underground stuff. But hey, when you make it, but that money's real because I guarantee you that Canelo's got $35 million in his bank account tonight, or it came in this morning.
According to the Twitter rumors, I don't know how much truth is into this, but I did see some tweets out there that subscriptions actually jumped for DAZN during that break while you were waiting for the BMF title to conclude. That apparently they got a nice little bump in subscribers of people waiting for that fight. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but that is something I saw come across the Twitter timeline on my combat sports list. So these are people that I actually trust. But yeah, again, I don't know how much truth there is to that. But hey, apparently the subscriber numbers are doing well for DAZN. So.
And another thing too, people don't realize DAZN is trying to get big in North America. They're DAZN. If you look at their app, the app is sung by 5.4 billion people have the app worldwide, but they're trying to get the North American market. They can do good. They basically it's like, oh, we're good with this. What we got, we just want more. That's basically what they are.
100%.
They're not struggling. So if y'all people think that's a fraud or they don't got a stupid business model, y'all don't know money.
Yeah, no, I think they're okay, and obviously,
other than the broadcast was terrible. Like you said, everything was pro Canelo.
That's always how it is, man. That's how I'm glad. Was Brian Kenny on the call last night?
Yeah, Brian Kenny and Sergio Martinez.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, Sergio Moore. My bad.
Of course, it was Brian Kenny. Anyways, yeah, that's how they're always going to be, man. They're going to be pro A side, no matter who it is.
It's going to be interesting to see who Canelo fights next.
Is it?
Yeah, he's fighting in May because a lot of people want the Triple G3 fight.
Yeah,
me personally, because I didn't go see one or two. Those are the only two in last night. So 3 fights I've missed of Canelo's in the last 5 years. So it only fitting that my ass shows up at the trilogy and didn't see the first two. So that on the personal side, I want to see Triple G3 because I will be there through hook or crook for Triple G3.
He said he didn't want it, but then he was like,
if it makes sense business-wise.
If the money's there, I guess I'll beat him again. I guess. I don't know. Listen, I don't really care. I mean, I'm going to tune in to whoever it is, no matter what. So just book it. Just book it and give me a date and a time, and I will be tuning in. So yeah, again, UFC 244 talk will be reserved for our chat with James Lynch, but we're going to hit you with the Matt Brown first. And then we're going to conclude with our nice chat, UFC 244. So if you want that recap, we got the timestamps below. But check out our interview with Matt Brown coming up right now. He's getting ready to get back into the octagon against Ben Saunders, December 14th, last pay-per-view of the year. So it's going to be a big fight card. Like I said, 3 title fights. Big fight night. So...
Also, on the boxing chop, shout out to Miguel Burchett. I was actually watching it. It was an undercover. I call it an undercover fight. It was on the ESPN Plus Top Rate. He's one of the best fighters. To me, the best guy at 130. I hadn't seen him fight live, so it was good to see him make a former champion look not ordinary. He looked like he should be retired tomorrow. That guy Miguel Burchett, so he's gonna be a problem at 130. You got to see him. If you think he's going to be a champion at 130, I know we had some fighters that are fighting that weight class. Yeah, you're going to have to see Mr. Burchett. He's a problem.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that was a good fight for him. And, yeah, man, we're going to get into the rest of the show. Obviously, before we get out of here, people, check out the merch on Teespring. The link is in the description below. So check it out. Grab yourself a t-shirt. Grab yourself a hoodie. All that stuff is there. It's getting cold. It's wintertime. So grab yourself a hoodie. I got mine on the way, so we're gonna have it to show off for you guys, so you can see the quality, so we can show it off for you, so you can go ahead order one for, your little Christmas gift, a little stocking stuffer, your little friend of the show or whatever have you that likes to listen. Hey, give them a slip and dip T-shirt or a hoodie for the holidays. Show them that you love them, and show them that you love us, because you want to support the show and keep us growing. Again, the link is in the description for Teespring, so check it out. We would appreciate it if you grabbed 1 or 2. There are multiple colors available, so check all that stuff out. And yeah, help support the show. If you're listening on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, please. Helps the visibility. That is free, something you can do to help us out. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Enjoy the rest of the show. Episode 120. We will be back next week with more guests and more fight talk. So yeah, till then, peace. Please welcome to the Slip and Dip podcast, making a Slip and Dip debut. One of the most storied welterweights in the game, the UFC, Ultimate Fighter veteran. I mean, he should be one of those guys you consider for the BMF title. You know what I'm saying?
The original, yeah.
We got Matt Brown on the program. What's going on, my man?
Not much, man. Just hanging out around the house, relaxing, trying to get ready for another hard day of training tomorrow.
Absolutely. So obviously you're training in preparation for your upcoming bout against Ben Saunders at UFC 245. Another guy that's been around the game for a long time. This is one of those classic matchups, man. How do you feel about the matchup itself?
I feel fine about it. I've watched Ben for a long time. I got a lot of respect for him. I like what he does. He's been in and out of the UFC a few times, so he's on a losing streak, so I feel like he's probably going to be hungry, probably going to really come in and, really try to kill me. So I'm going to try to kill him first.
How's that knee doing?
Man, it's really good, actually. I've been surprised, man. We did some sprints today. It was feeling good, so I think we're going to be perfectly fine with it.
Do you think an element of ring rust? Do you believe in that, or do you think because you fight such physical battles that the basically 2-year hiatus will be good? Be good for you because you got 2 years off your body to freshen up.
There's certainly an aspect of some time off for me that's going to be good. I don't know about ring rust because I've never taken this much time off, so I have no clue what that's going to be like. To be honest, I'm not even really thinking about it. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do that night. And, realistically, day to day, I'm thinking about what do I do the best today so that I can perform my best that night. And, we'll deal with it when it gets there. I think if I got my mind right and I get on my training in the way that I'm supposed to and I'm going to, then I think I should be, then I should be fine.
Very cool. Yeah, man. It is a long layoff for you. I mean, have you been antsy? Has it been like hard for you? Like this much time away? Has it? Have you been getting that itch? You're like, man, I wish the situation was different.
I'll tell you, I've had my days like that, and then I've had my days where it's been all right. So I've been building a couple businesses on the side. Well, not really on the side, but during my downtime, I've been working on a couple other businesses. I opened my own gym. I got a coffee company now. So realistically, I've been about as busy as you could possibly be in this downtime.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen your post about the Immortal Coffee and everything. How did you get into the coffee business, man?
I got a friend that was in the coffee business. He just hit me up and we were talking and just kind of went from there. One thing led to another and said, man, let's do it. Let's fire away. Let's go for it.
Well, I know you train people and you coach and you're just a simple fan of the sport. How much did seeing that craziness last night inspire you? Not that you need inspiring, but that had to get you fired up even more than what you're fired up after watching all the crazy fights last night.
Oh man, yeah, that was a pretty good card. I won a little bit of money, so I was happy to. I was happy.
It's always good.
Yeah, it's always good. So I had a good night on the betting lines. Definitely gets me a little fired up. I was actually at a boxing match watching my friend box right before the UFC fights, and that gets me fired up even more. Being there in person, seeing my dudes in there, my boys that I'm helping get the work in. That's what really gets me fired up, man. Seeing it in person, and those really good fights. Though it got me a little fired up, but. I'm so focused on this fight, man, that, I barely even watched the fights last night. I paid attention. I checked it out, and I checked the fights that I had some money on, of course. And other than that, I'm focused on this fight, bro. Like, my mind's in the right place. And I was close to going to bed early and not even watching the fights, to be honest.
I know you getting back in the UFC scene as a fighter. How many people keep asking you because you're on the back? They said the back nine of your career. How many fights you got? Are you tired of hearing that, or are you just gonna play it by ear?
I'll play it by ear. Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it's a legitimate question people like to ask. But for me, it's one fight at a time right now. Like I said, I got these other businesses going on. I got a family. I want to do this fight. I want to see how I feel. See how my body feels, see how I perform, go in there. I'm confident that everything's going to be quality. But I never in my life have ever looked past the next fight. Right. Like, to me, December 14th is my last day. I kind of, to be honest, I look at it like December 14th is the last day of my life. I may not wake up December 15th. If Ben Saunders is a killer, and he might kill me. So I don't have any plans for December 15th and after.
I feel you on that, man. I feel you on that. Now, like, how many fights do you actually have left on your contract right now?
I should probably know that, but I don't.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's one of the things, I've learned a lot in business, but, I'll tell you what, one of the things I've never done as a professional fighter is treat it like a business. I always say I'm a fighter, I'm a martial artist, and I probably could have done more with maybe promoting myself a different way. Maybe I'll never create a character like some of these guys do, but I probably could have treated it more like a business, but I never have. And to me, it doesn't feel like a business. This is just what I love to do, man. I just wake up every day and can't wait to get to the gym. I just feel very blessed that I'm able to do this for a living, and I'm very happy that I'm able to do what I love every day. And you know what? I set out on this path a long time ago. This was the place that I wanted to be when I was a young fighter. Cutting my teeth in the underground circuits, and this is what I wanted to be, man. So here I am. I'm happy with it.
So you talked about, obviously not doing like these character things that we see a lot of, and I know don't necessarily want to call out names particular, but we know the characters that you're talking about. We know these guys that are putting on these fake personas just to get reactions out of people. You've always just been the guy, hey, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna do my business. The last fight of yours that I covered personally was the Cerrone fight. And I remember speaking to you at Media Day there, and it was just like, some of those guys were trying to do the thing where they were talking it up. And it's just like, I got that vibe. I'm like, yeah, this is a real type of fighter. Like, dude, like, he's just here for the business. He's going to show up, and he's going to try to, knock Cerrone's head off that night. Obviously, it didn't go your way that evening, but I still felt that vibe from you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's me, man. I don't need to be a character. I don't need to be no one other than who I am. This sport has saved my life, and I love it for that. And again, maybe I could have made more money that way. Maybe I could have done things differently. But every day, I just wake up gracious that this is what I get to do for a living. I'm happy, man, and I want to inspire my kids. I want to inspire my students, and especially my student kids. And it's just a beautiful thing, man. I'm in a beautiful place, and I want to just enjoy the ride while I can, man. That's what it's all about.
So would you advise, because since you're around a lot of up-and-coming martial artists, would you advise them to do the character thing or something like that and look at it kind of things you didn't do since the game's kind of changing?
Good question. So like with the current staple fighters that I work with, I never advise them to be a character. But what the UFC does is they magnify who you are. They magnify your personality. And I tell them, know who you are, know who you want to be, and let them magnify that. If that's a character, if that's the type of person you are, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if it's fake, you may not sleep well at night. You know what I mean? Like you may not, like Colby Covington, I can't imagine that he's going to look back on, there's no fulfillment in what he does, right? He's not going to be a 70-year-old man looking back like, hell yeah, I did that, because all that money and shit that he's making off of that, off selling his soul, ain't worth it, right? To me, maybe he'll be perfectly fine with his life the way it is, right? But for me, that's not worth it. That's not who I am. That's not the way I was raised. That's not the person I want to be. They talk a lot, a lot of these motivational guys, so they talk about the art of fulfillment, and that's, I can go to bed as a fulfilled person. I put my heart and soul into this. I bled, I sweated for it. I didn't fake nothing. There ain't nothing wrong with it, I think, but if you can sleep well at night that way, then props to you.
Yeah, I like it, man. I like it. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because there's so many instances of Colby himself, even like during mid promotion that he's doing, he's telling people that it's fake, and everybody still gets the reaction. But I mean, hey, that he's taking the pro wrestling playbook, trying to play the heel, and it's working.
It is working. It is working. We all want to see him fight. We want to see him get beat up, right? That's what everybody wants. And it's hard to do, man. He's a good fighter. So, he's sort of the prototypical guy right now doing that shit. He's to me like he's taking it too far, right? Like, cause he's 100% fake. He tells you it's fake, I don't buy into that. You know what I mean? I'm like, it doesn't do it for me. It doesn't make me want to watch him fight. Connor, on the other hand, like, I felt like he did it well.
Oh yeah. I felt more genuine with him. Yeah,
because I think that's really like who he is. Again, like when I tell my fighters, like, they're gonna magnify who you are. They magnified who Connor is. Like, that's who he is naturally as a person. And then he just, took it to next level. Unfortunately, he probably went a level too far, and Khabib put a stop to that. But
yeah,
but again, nothing wrong with living that way. If that's what, if you can sleep well at night, if you're okay, like I got kids, and I couldn't put my kid, I can't go tell my kids, I try to teach them the lessons in life that they need to learn, raise them to be respectable adults. That's my job. I'm in the, as a parent, I'm in the business of making quality adults. And that's, and I have to live that, I can't go out there and be a hypocrite to them.
Gotcha. And somebody who has a kid, I see what you're saying. Tell me this too, because me and Manny, we talked about this. I was like, you didn't watch some of the interviews. Somebody was asking Kevin Lee after his spectacular performance, like he beat with Fawaz Azabi, talking about he's a lot more humbler, and he looked at them like, that's how I'm feeling today. Why do people, do you think, make a big deal about martial arts? Like, it's not a natural sport. Like, people don't wake up when they're 5 years old. Hey, man, I'm gonna train to fight in the octagon and fight in the cage. Why do people make a big deal about that has nothing to do? Can you win or can you actually fight? I think it's crazy to me. It's not a natural sport.
My kids woke up at 5 when they're 5 years old saying they want to be fighters. It might be natural to them. I don't know. But, it's different now, too, because they see that, they also want to be pro wrestlers, too, so.
Nice. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I guess, it's all about what type of, environment you grow up in, right? Because, hey, if dad is in the UFC, more than likely you're going to be paying attention to that stuff. So I guess it's a little bit different from your perspective.
Yeah, and the same with them. Like I take my kids to the gym. I run my own kids class a lot of times, and I have a second instructor also. But I run a lot of times, and just because I love spending time with my kids in that environment and motivate and inspiring other kids. I love watching them, and if they want to be fighters, they can be fighters. But the kids class that I built at my gym. I tell all the parents, our model is a human development model, not an athlete development model. Like that's the object of training in the martial arts is to build better humans, right? And that's the object of it, right? So that's what we really try to push. Now, if they become athletes, that's good, right? We're going to use the athlete stuff, the martial arts, the individual competitions to build better humans. And to me, again, I can go to bed at night, sleep well, knowing that that I've done some good things in that world.
How big a deal is it for, like, with the young generation? You starting to see more people as the sport evolves. Like, if you're not a legit mixed martial artist, like, you can't just be a jiu-jitsu guy. You can't just be a Muay Thai guy. If you're one of those guys, your holes will be exposed. How big a deal is it to train the young generation to be good at everything, not just I'm a specialist at this? Because sooner or later somebody's gonna punch your ticket in this game.
Right. Well, again, we focus first on human development, and that can be through all the martial arts, or it could be through a singular martial art, right? It depends on what keeps the child interested.
Gotcha.
Right. So, that's the key on that. I don't push them to do all the martial arts, even though we have all the martial arts available to our kids. I don't push them to do all the martial arts. I say, do what keeps you in the gym, do what keeps you interested, and do what keeps you coming back. And something, we'll find what you succeed in as you get older. And there is still a place. I think there will always be a place for the specialists like the Damian Maia's. Like, he can't strike for shit. Right? He's a jiu-jitsu guy through and through. So this concept that you can't do just one sport anymore in martial arts, I don't think will ever be a complete fact. I think for the vast majority of us, it's the truth. But there's always going to be the Damian Maia's. There's always going to be the Anderson Silvas and there's or Israel Azadanya's, right? Those guys that really excel in one area. To be honest, I think it's going to go. I think we're seeing it transition more towards that, where we have specialists in one area that are good enough in the other areas to funnel the fight towards their strength.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I like that there are elite specialists that still are around, like guys that have this one thing that makes them unique. And then once they get to that high level, like once you start to get to the top 15, top 10s, all right, now you're going against this specialist. I think that makes it, for those interesting matchups, like kind of like what the UFC was founded on, right? It was like these disciplines versus this discipline. And I still like that kind of exists, but there are a lot of guys that we see, new prospects in the game that are just freaks that can do everything well.
Or you get somebody like Corey Anderson last night. We know Corey's a hell of a wrestler. He didn't look like a wrestler last night, putting that boy away. He is crazy.
Yeah, right? Right? Yeah. Oh, this is messing up on me. Yeah, that's exactly right. And, that was an interesting fight, right? Because, that was the toughest test for Johnny Walker. So
got smoked.
Yeah, it didn't really go his way. So that was an interesting fight, I thought.
Yeah, 100%. Now, along with the the shifts that we've been talking about in styles and everything like that, we've also kind of touched on a little bit of things promotionally that's been going on. The shift to the entertainment era. Like being a veteran of The Ultimate Fighter like yourself, like do you think that type of show still has a place in this era, considering like we have the Contender series where guys can on a Tuesday night get that UFC contract immediately versus let's wait over 6 months and then find out who made it?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see. I mean, it seems like it's still working, right? We're still getting good guys out of there. So I guess I don't know how many people watch that show anymore. But
right.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It seems like, at least if you like I read all the social media posts and keep up with stuff like that, at least people on social media are saying they are watching it. But apparently there's still some business sense when, Dana gets to start talking about it. So
for sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like the model personally. I don't care. We all want to see the training, right? Like, we don't want to see them in the house drinking and partying and goofing off, right? We just want to see the training. And I'd love to see them move that show more towards showing the training. And I think they get a lot of eyes on it that way personally, but who knows? I could be wrong.
And before we let you go, Matt, I know we talked off camera. What do you see yourself doing like 3 years from now? Do you want to be like a Matt Serra and one of these elite fighters that you kind of see like from the infant stage and being in corner for a big fight? Or is it one of those things like you just want to be around it, help your kids mature into respectable men, and you just keep it in the family? Or do you still want to be around the sport, like hardcore, like in the...
No, I definitely like to be around the sport. And that's part of opening the gym, right? I want to help other guys build up. But again, we really focus more on the kids program. So, if that doesn't happen, then that's fine too. But I like being in the business. I like being around sport. I like training. I like being on the mats. And as long as all those things come true, then my life will be cool. If that means I'm in the corner of some good fighters, because I think I'm a good coach and I think I have a lot to bring to the table. If that translates into doing that, then that's all the better. If it doesn't, then I can be happy with myself and I'll be cool with it.
Beautiful, man. Well, man, we appreciate the time, man. Can't wait to see you go to action on December 14th against one Ben Saunders, looking to hand him 4 consecutive losses. Man, that's going to be a hell of a fight, and it's a hell of a card as well with 3 title fights at the top of it. Man, can't wait to see you get back in action, man, and of course, best of luck on that night.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast. Friend of the show, one of the best MMA journalists, just flat out journalists in the sports world today, the face of the Score. You can catch him on all the videos, breaking stuff down. I learned stuff, and I know him personally, Mr. James Lynch. Follow that man. He's a great follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the whole bit, and YouTube.
I need to record that review and just send that to my boss, just so we can get a raise here or something. That was awesome. Thank you guys. I'm happy to be back. There's you sent me a message earlier today, and I was in line about to get a taxi because we don't have rideshare here in Vancouver, and I was like, there's no way I could say no to this. So I'm happy to be back on.
We don't lean on you. Tell us the atmosphere, because Matt said I've been in the Garden. What was the atmosphere in the Garden? And I will talk about the end of the night when I won't say the controversial, because it wasn't controversial, but just the abrupt ending. That's a better way to put it than controversial, because it wasn't controversial. It was more of abrupt.
Yeah. So I was in the arena for I was in the arena all night, but I was only cage side for the co-main event and the main event. But I can tell you when that main event started, I've covered I don't know how many events. I've covered boxing. I've covered everything. That was one of the best receptions I've ever heard in an arena for a fight. Like everyone was into it. It was just like you could feel the energy in the air. It seemed like I don't know how they did the seating, but it seemed like there were people everywhere, around me. It was I almost felt isolated in a way, and it was just you could just totally feel that energy from The Rock. Coming out with his theme music to, Diaz stepping in the cage. It was really electric in there. And you could even feel it with the fight. Everyone was into it, Masvidal was landing. He was kind of having some fun. Diaz, would throw a few shots here and there. But when that doctor came in, I thought, now from where I was sitting, I was on the Diaz side. So I was seeing Diaz's back when I was cage side. Now it looked to me like the doctor said, hey, you're good and we'll go. But what the doctor did was it looked like he said Diaz was good. And then as soon as he did that, he walked back. And then Mergliata comes out and goes fights off. And I was like, what? And then everyone was it just literally it did a complete, 180. Everyone's upset, people booing. And just, the thing that's so interesting about this is that, this is called the bad motherfucker title. I don't mind swearing on here. I know I'm Canadian. I got a reputation to uphold, but it's, it's of all things to end this on, you'd think they would of all fights with a title like that, you'd think they would let it go on a little bit more. Now, I'm not saying I disagree with the call necessarily. We can get in that in a sec, but it's just kind of interesting that they end it off a doctor stoppage when, if you have a title like that, you pretty much got to kill the guy in order to win the fight. It just seems something like that, So
yeah, no, 2 things. I agree with you on the whole stoppage thing, because that's how it came off on TV as well. I was like, okay, he's gonna let it go on, and I thought it was gonna be one of those things to where all right, if you start getting tagged, we're gonna stop it in the middle of this round or something like that.
Who's referee?
Yeah. Dan Mergliata was a referee. And then also again with the BMF title thing, okay, yeah, maybe let's let it go on a little bit longer. But I think if Nate was actually having better output, maybe I would agree more. Yeah. But the fact that he was getting worked those first 3 rounds.
That's the narrative that's getting lost here. And the thing that, and Diaz is at the post-fight presser saying, I was just hitting my stride. Well, your math can't be that good because you had 2 rounds left. Masvidal hasn't been finished since 2009. Seriously, go look it up. That's the last time he was finished in a fight. I can't remember the last time Nate Diaz won a fight late either. Is this a Nate Diaz we've never seen before? And he's not a power guy either. No, you could almost argue if the fight went the other way, for example, if it was Diaz dominating the fight and going into the later rounds, at least Masvidal's got power. He's knocked out plenty of guys in his career. Diaz is more of a volume guy, so I didn't see it happening. So that's why as far as them stopping the fight and everything, I don't have a huge issue with it just because Diaz was losing. If anyone had a scorecard other than 30-27, or maybe you could give one of the rounds. But even then, I think that's debatable. Masvidal clearly won that fight, and I don't think the tide was turning. No. Like some were suggesting.
And he was compromised by the cut because he clearly was pawing at it.
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
rounds 2 and 3. So it was compromising his vision.
And let's not forget either, the end of that third round, I mean, Masvidal was, that went on even like, maybe like 30 seconds later. I think Masvidal was actually close to finishing it. And I think you have to look at sort of where Diaz was in the fight. Like, he wasn't going to come back. Like, I don't see it. Like, even the most hardcore Diaz fans, explain to me how he was going to finish Masvidal, who didn't look tired, who had like no damage, who has power. Like, I just don't see a place where Diaz was going to capitalize in those last 2 rounds. So from that perspective, I didn't have an issue with them stopping the fight just because Diaz was not, I mean, you could even put in a couple 10-8 rounds in there. I mean, that's how dominant Masvidal was in that fight.
Yeah, 100%. And also, not to mention the fact that Masvidal was in there clowning around too. Like, he was like having a walk in the park, just having fun. He was. Did
you see him even get up and like say, "Hey, like come, we'll stand again"? Like, Masvidal could have gone to the ground and tried to lay more ground and pound, but he was having fun in there. And I think, honestly, when I was watching the fight too, it kind of went through my head that was like, I don't think Masvidal is going to necessarily like go 100%, like in terms of like trying to get an early finish. I think he wants to entertain the crowd and he wants to have this be something that the fans are going to remember, because let's be honest, if Masvidal went out there and finished Diaz in the first round, people would be disappointed. I think they would, just because you want this back and forth. It's called the bad BMF title. Like, you have to have a fight that's going to be compelling. And I think Masvidal, to a certain degree, did sort of play with Diaz a bit in there. So I agree with you, Matt.
James, here's 2 questions. One, do you think that Jorge deserves a title shot? And 2, the whole BMF concept, I'm not gonna say it's a joke, but to me, how can people's like, oh, it's great marketing, when you got grown people uncomfortable to say the whole name, or you got to edit it out and stuff. How great could that like really be for marketing? Because you heard people fumbling and just saying and apologize, or, it's like. But it says motherfucker on the title, so why can't you say it?
Yeah, I mean, even me today saying it on here, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I should. But no, it's to be honest. Okay, well, I'll answer your second question first. The UFC has this dumb fixation, and we've talked about this before, on that a pay-per-view has to be a title fight. So I think that did play into this as well, whether Dana wants to say, oh, I just thought of it. No, I think it's because you guys are fixated on this title thing, which I think is dumb. I don't think a pay-per-view is going to make a difference if it's an interim title or a regular title or whatever. I think the title thing's a little bit they're too fixated on it. So I think that was part of it too. I think it's kind of cool, but I mean, you could have just said this is for the Young Crown title and not even made a title. I think people would have been fine with that too. It's just... Yeah, because I think
with the Rock being there, it would have worked off without a belt. Just the People's Champ. You got the People's Champion, The Rock being part of it. They could have put it together without a stupid belt. Bam! It just makes too much sense.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so I think from that perspective, like, I don't think people cared too much about the belt. They love the matchup, and they love sort of the theme of that. These are 2 real fighters. So and that's why I'm kind of glad Dana came out and said this isn't something that's going to be defended. Like, I mean, otherwise it just reminds me of like the hardcore belt in WWE or whatever. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Now to your first question. This is, to me, the biggest question coming out of this, okay? So Dana was pretty adamant about not doing the rematch, which, to be honest, if you look at that fight, let's say it didn't end on a cut. Let's say it was just a 3-round fight. I mean, there's no reason to think that Diaz deserves a rematch after that performance. I know he says he was injured and all this stuff, whatever. That performance does not warrant a rematch here. And it seems like, Masvidal as well had some injuries, so it could take a bit. But it seems like he's ready to come back sooner than Diaz, because Diaz has to get all that stuff taken care of with the cut and all that, right? So I have a feeling Masvidal's next fight will not be against Diaz. Again, Dana doesn't want to do it. Masvidal says he'll give Diaz the fight, but it doesn't have to be next. Diaz says it's next or nothing. So I think it might be a while before we see Diaz back in there, because I think the UFC has other plans. But the thing that really stood out to me with Masvidal was that he wants a money fight. So what is a money fight, right? Like, what's the UFC going to seriously throw at him that's going to be a money fight? And to me, your options are pretty limited. I mean, you've got Conor McGregor, but Masvidal himself, and I agree with him, says that he would absolutely destroy McGregor. And I think the way Masvidal is looking right now, I would tend to agree with that. But that is still a money fight. And I think Masvidal would take it if the price is right. So there's him. The other interesting thing here is this title fight between Usman and Covington. I think if Usman wins, I don't think that's a money fight for Masvidal. As great as Usman is, as a good ambassador he is for the sport, he is not a ticket seller, and I don't think there's any evidence by now. Now, Colby, aside from the fact that, I know there's all this talk of whether he's a draw or not, but the fact is people are still talking about him. There is some buzz around Colby. There's also that storyline of them, being friends, former friends, training at the same gym. I mean, that is a huge fight if they were to do that. But I don't know what else is out there that's a money fight that the UFC is going to go and pony up and say, hey, we're going to give you a lot of money, and it's going to go, because people saying like Leon Edwards or something like that's never going to happen. That's not a money fight. You have to look at what, like, I sort of gauge it on social media or gauge on what the fan interest is. And to me, Connor and Covington are the only names that I can think of that would even be close to sort of a money fight. So that's what I think. It's going to be a tricky situation, I think, going forward.
But here's the thing that's stupid about MMA. I like Jorge. Jorge, he should be the 2019 Fighter of the Year, hands down.
Yeah. No, he is.
But
he is.
How do you get to call shots for a money fight and you ain't never won an effing title? Come on now. You have to at least be a champion, a former champion, to be able to do, like, for instance, if somebody like I don't take GSP because that's obvious. I'm trying to think somebody in recent time that's been a champion.
Well, you hold that thought. I'll just say that I think what's happened in MMA, and we've seen this over the years, is that, I mean, the title holder doesn't necessarily mean the draw, right? And I think we are seeing that entertainment aspect in the sport where it doesn't matter. I mean, that's why you're getting, like you have fights that don't necessarily make sense. Like here's a good example: Darren Till fighting Gaslam, right? Like, Till absolutely did not deserve that fight against Gaslam. Now, Till ended up winning. But if you look at why would a guy who was literally seconds away from winning the interim title, rocked Izzy in that interim title fight a guy who lost 2 in a row? That doesn't make any sense, right? But it's because Till he's this draw in the UK. Like, I see the numbers. Trust me, this guy, he's 27. He's like he has a lot. He is sort of the next big guy in the UK. So I think the UFC saw that and they put them together. So I don't think it's necessary. Like, I agree with you, Kendrick. Like, if we're looking at this as a sport, it doesn't make sense. Like, we should continue to move. We should continue to move people along in their respective divisions, but the way drawing power works, that's just how it is. It's like, you have to go with who's hot.
Like Max Holloway. Max Holloway could sit there, hey, I don't got no challengers. I want Jorge. We don't even need a belt. We gonna see who the real BMF is, because I'm that guy. I fight in 2 weight classes. Something like that has a resume or something of championship lineage versus he's hot right now and he got double-figure losses.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's why we had that main event last night. It was all drawing power. It had nothing to do with title relevancy whatsoever. I mean, they created a title because these guys, they made this badass matchup, essentially. It's a fight everybody wants to see. Like, hey, let's put a whole bunch of marketing.
And they managed to get the like think how crazy that is, though. If we can just talk about this for a second, like the fact that you have two fighters. Look at Masvidal and Diaz's records at welterweight, just in general. Forget about 155; they're terrible. Both of their records are not very great. The fact that they were to headline a card at MSG, The Rock comes out as part of this whole thing. The president's there, which never has happened. Like, that's crazy. Like, that just shows you where the sport is now, where it's like entertainment and drawing power is such a huge part of this that, like, I think people forget all those other things about, hey, like, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who was also on that card, dominated Masvidal like less than 2 years ago. Like, it's pretty crazy to think.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. We touched on the co-main event there for a second, so I want to go back to that, and I guess the significance of that with Darren Till not only getting back into the win column, but fighting at a more natural weight for him, because he was cutting way too damn much weight at 170. And I remember asking him, when he fought Tyron Woodley, I was like, if you win the belt, are you immediately dropping? And he just laughed, because he was like, I might have to. It was like one of those things. But the fact that he goes to his true weight class and beats the 4th ranked guy, they can't slow roll him anymore. Like, now that he's in a new weight class, you beat number 4 right out of the gate. There's no, like, you have to be in a number 1 contender fight next.
Disagree, because it wasn't like he steamrolled Kelvin. It could have went either way.
Nobody's going to steamroll Kelvin. Though.
But you got to do something spectacular to be your second fight and be fighting the title contention. Unless you Connor or somebody got a name.
You beat number 4. So which way are you going to go? Are you going to fight down? I mean, you could fight down, but does that really make sense from a marketing standpoint, considering what James was talking about a minute ago, being the face of the UK?
If the fight's overseas, he fights somebody like Leon Edwards.
Leon's at 170.
Yeah, Till's going to stay at 85. It is really interesting right now. You want to talk about wins and losses. Like, the fight that's probably going to happen next at middleweight is Yoel Romero and Adesanya. How many fights has Romero lost? I know they were close, but come on. Like, I disagree on that. You guys and we've interviewed our good buddy Jared Cantonier. I mean, he absolutely deserves that title shot.
He's ready to roll. He's ready to roll this weekend.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, he deserves it, but again, we can throw out the window. This is MMA, it's entertainment. I think Romero's going to get that fight. Costas, Ricky Martin's not going to be back for a while, Paulo Costa. So, it's like, cause he's injured. So now you have all this, and this was almost the worst case scenario for the UFC in a way, because Till won, but he didn't win impressively, and it was not a good fight. So while he won, you can't really say like, hey, let's propel him up to a title shot, because like Kendrick said, it wasn't impressive. But at the same time, like, he just beat Calvin Gastelum, who, like I said, was close to winning the interim title earlier this year. Has looked great at middleweight, has some huge wins. I don't know. I mean, there's a few options there, but I think like Till would probably fight like a Jack Hermanson, or if Cantonier, they want to keep him active, even though he really shouldn't have to. He just beat Jack Hermanson. Maybe do Cantonier until, I don't know. Well, Robert Whitaker's out there now. There's a few options. It'll be interesting to see which way they go. But this really killed, like, Calvin had all this momentum, and now and if anyone you thought would lose this fight, it was Till, just moving up a weight class, 2 straight losses, visa issues, weight cut, having to come at the last minute. Of all people to lose this fight, you would think it would be Darren Till, but he did the opposite, and it was just such a underwhelming fight. And it kind of, what's so crazy about this too, last thing I'll say on sort of this fight is that, like, the way the card was going, this looked like one of the best cards ever. And I know we'll get into some of the other fights, but like, it was going in that direction, and the co-main event, and then obviously what happened in the main event really sort of spoiled it. And even Dana White called the fight a B-, which, I mean, that's crazy to think that Dana never gives out letter grades.
It's crazy, man. Like, and I'm not on board with the co-main being boring or being a bad fight, because I looked at it as the fact of Darren Till is moving to a new weight class, and he went out there and he really used his range effectively and was moving well. He was sticking and moving. He wasn't playing Kelvin's game, which Kelvin's game is he's going to lure you in to get close, and then whap, whap, here's that overhand left, and like you're on the canvas. Like, he didn't do that. He didn't let him cut off the cage on him or anything like that. He was like, I think it was just more of a showcase for Darren and his skills. And to do that against a guy like Kelvin Gastelum, like, knowing what Kelvin Gastelum has been through, like the fight against Adesanya, fight of the year, and Darren Till shut all that shit down, essentially. So that's why I was really impressed by Till in this fight, even though a lot of people are kind of poo-pooing on it.
Cause like he didn't do nothing special. Tell me you could be a tiebreaker. Me and Matt texted back and forth because we didn't watch the fight together last night. If Kelvin cuts off the cage, it's a lot easier fight. Yeah, Till was moving, but that's what you cut the cage for. It eliminates the moving. He didn't do it, and that's why he lost.
I think that I think there's a couple ways you can look at this. Yeah, I think Till. I agree with Matt. Till did look there, and certainly I'm not taking anything away from his performance, but I just think the way the fight kind of played out, like Calvin just seemed a bit off too. Like I feel like the fight had potential to be more, and it wasn't that, and so I think that's why there's some disappointment. But like you said, Matt, with everything that Darren had to go through, he apparently had a knee injury heading into the fight, and moving up a weight class, a great effort on his part, but it just didn't translate to the type of fight I think people wanted, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. And my response to Kendrick's text was, like, Darren is too long and he's using his range too well. Like, Kelvin can try to cut off the cage, but Darren's just going to go the other way. Like, he's got such a wider base, like, to where he's going to be able to, in one step, get out of the way.
Yeah, but he was using he wasn't using the same range on the offensive side.
He was. He absolutely was. He absolutely was using his range.
I'm talking about like in spots like when he was most effective is when he pinned Kelvin against the cage, cut the cage off on him, get a couple shots, and used his size and backed off. But he had him bent because he flipped the tables on Kelvin. To me,
disagree. Anyways, let's move on to another fight I want to talk about. We're not going to go in order on this main card because I'm just kind of going on.
Corey Anderson.
Nope, we're not talking about Corey Anderson yet. I want to talk about Kevin Lee and his performance, man, because this is a guy who's been all over the place, literally on the radar. He's been in title fight, like interim title fights, lost a few in a row, like going up to TriStar, a guy who seemed completely lost, after, like, obviously, I'm sure you watched the Rogan interview, on the podcast, and he just seemed like he needed to find himself again, and to go out there and literally kill a guy, and luckily he came back to life and was able to leave the cage on his own power, but to absolutely just murder Gregor Gillespie with that head kick, and then after the fact just seemed so calm about it. Like, I think in the past, like, Kevin Lee would have been on top of the cage, like, yeah, like doing all the crazy, like we saw young Kevin Lee. But James, are we seeing a new, like, Kevin Lee, I guess 3.0 even? I don't know.
Yeah, and we forget that he's still, I think he's 27. Like he's still relatively young. It's just he's been in the UFC for so long that we forget, that he is still, he's not even necessarily in his prime yet. This to me was, this just shows you how stacked this card is. This to me was one of the big highlights on the card. Kevin Lee, when I interviewed him, he even said it. This is a dangerous fight. It doesn't make sense for me to take this fight because Gregor's not a big name, but he has a great record, right? So. And to go out there and finish him in the first round and do it the way he did and do it on this card that's so big it's huge for his career. This is 3.0, but this is also a career turnaround in my opinion because this puts him back on track. Like if Kevin lost this fight, I don't think they would have cut him, but you'd certainly put him in that sort of overrated category and everything. But this was a reminder of how dangerous he still is. I like him back at lightweight. I like the fact that he's at TriStar now. I think there's a lot to take away from this in the sense that Kevin is still a player at 155. Yeah, he lost to Al. He lost to RDA, weight class up. I think there's still some cardio issues that we'll have to find out if he does do 5 rounds again. But I wonder, too, if the fact that Kevin was not a star of this card. Really, there was so many other names on this card. I know he was on the main card here, but, I think that in a way also played a role because I think maybe Kevin thrives better when he's not the focus. The Barbosa win, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was one of the fights that was a bit lower on the card, I think. But he's, it's one of those things where I think that this was sort of an opportunity that Kevin was able to take advantage of, and I think there's big things ahead for him as far as that goes.
James, he think people make it too much like Matt. He went jumping on the cage, and somebody asked him, you were there. I think there was a guy next to you about being humble. Why do people make a big deal about this? His job is to do what he did, then kill somebody and go on to the next one. Why people make a big deal about that? And then when he gave his response, the guy was like, because he's like, I wasn't feeling it today. If I'm feeling it next time, I'm gonna do that. And the guy's like, oh, I can hear him literally say, oh, he was right next to you. Who was it that asked that question?
Who was next to me?
Actually, watch the score. I listened to 3 or 4 year interviews, James, and I do not.
Well, I appreciate that.
I do not, and I'm not BS. I do not do post fight interviews because of stuff like that. But I listened to all of them because we had that whole hour in between the fights and stuff. So I was like, let me listen to all this stuff between Canelo and them. So I caught that, and then they were like all like surprised by his response because he didn't say, "Yeah, I've turned over a new leaf."
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I'm drawing a blank right now. Who's beside me? I honestly don't know. But I'm with you guys too.
Right?
Yeah, no, I remember the scrum for sure because I was sort of on the left side, just because that like to even get into the arena yesterday was crazy. They had to get like a bomb like squad or whatever to like check our bags and dogs sniffed up. That's a story in itself.
That's some New York stuff there.
Yeah, no,
it was Trump stuff is what that was.
That's what it was, and they closed all the streets and everything. It was crazy. But no, getting back to what you're saying, people are morons. Let's be honest here. Like they really are. Like when I interviewed Kevin, I read all the comments and people are like, Gregor's gonna knock him out. Kevin sucks. This and that. People don't like people that talk, but then people complain when the fighters don't market themselves very well. I think what Kevin Lee has done throughout his entire career is great. The fact that he's calling out Habib and all these other guys, I think that's what you need to do and make some noise in the division. People just when I don't know, it's just for whatever reason they don't seem to like it. But I'm with you guys. Like Kevin, be how you want to be. To me, if you're winning, if you want to go out there and celebrate and do all those things, go for it. Because I'll tell you what, the person who doesn't have a name when he's in a post-fight interview or doesn't have anything to say is the one that gets forgotten and is getting passed over for big opportunities. And Kevin is someone I've always thought has done a good job of marketing himself, and I think he is sort of the total package. But fans want to see him lose for whatever reason. I don't know why. I think it's silly because it just doesn't make sense to me.
I could point to a couple of reasons, but we won't.
Yes.
We'll
Obviously, there's some racist people out there. We can leave it at that, right? So
100%.
I'm with you there. I'm with you.
We'll quickly touch on these last 2 fights, I guess, like all at once. And if there's anything that points out to you, like obviously Derek Lewis with a nice. We're gonna get there. Jeez. I just wanted to touch on these last 2 on the main card, and then we'll talk about.
Oh, okay.
So Derek Lewis obviously gets a nice win. Stephen Thompson looked good, but still got tagged late in the fight. Yeah. A little bit too much for my liking. Out of those 2 fights, like what were your takeaways out of those 2?
Well, with Thompson, I think that, and again, he hurt his hand in this fight. He's getting up there in age. He's 37, I think now. Good win for him. Luque, again, another guy, not a lot of upside, very dangerous guy. Had a nice winning streak heading into this one. But I think Thompson's, I hate to use this word, but I think he's sort of just slightly above sort of that gatekeeper status where, he can probably beat guys like Vicente Luque. But then if he goes and fights like, like a Kamaru Usman or someone, or I know he wanted to fight Maia. I think that would be an interesting fight. That's where we'd have to figure out where he fits. But time's running out for him. I mean, I think he's in one of those weird spots where he's lost, the title shot twice. He's had some setbacks. So nice guy. Love watching him fight, but I don't really know where he fits in the division right now. And as far as Derek Lewis, that was a super close fight. I think that could have gone either way. But, it's better for everyone if Derek Lewis wins the fight because you get the great interviews after. He had that. Did you see the joke he had about he was talking about Lee from MMA Crazy, who's African American, and Derek's like, well, how come they got the light on? We can't even see the black guy, the only black guy here doing the media scrum, which I thought was hilarious. Yeah, Derek's like a national treasure, but Derek's. I mean, you could see he looked better with having the nutritionist this time. Lou Giordano was working with him. You could see him look a little bit better, and I know that he's healed up some injuries as well. So I think if Derek can get all that fixed up, he's definitely still a player at the the top of the heavyweight division. It's just a matter of just being disciplined and keeping himself healthy.
Put some respect on my man Corey Anderson's name.
Yeah, he came on here. Did you hear the show? He came on here and said exactly what he was gonna do.
Yeah.
He said he was going to derail that hype.
And he gave you guys a shout out in that interview too that you guys did, which I thought was awesome because that's.
Oh, he did. He did.
Listen, here's what I gotta say about this fight. Okay, so first off, I did pick Johnny Walker in this fight. However, for probably the last I don't know how many months, maybe even on your show, Johnny Walker was absolutely overrated, and I kept warning people about this that you can't just fall in love with the guy when you're not looking at the quality of opposition. And yes, the Khalil Roundtree win was good, but Justin Ledet and Misha Serkinov are not good wins, and we're romanticizing about this guy too much. And what I love the most about this win by Corey Anderson is that he didn't win it on his bread and butter, which is his wrestling. He won it by beating Johnny at his own game. He saw some weaknesses. He went in there and finished him. This, to me, again, you talk about Kevin Lee, Corey Anderson. I mean, that's 1 and 1A as far as I'm concerned, as far as impressive finishes on this card. I love seeing that just because I think fans get so, last fight. They're talking about him fighting John Jones. Can you imagine if he had to fight John Jones now after what we saw last night? Like, Corey did everyone a favor, if I say so. And I think, I think what you got to do next is either give Corey the title shot against John Jones and then get Reyes to fight the winner, or get Reyes the title shot and Corey could fight the winner. But either way, don't screw either of these guys over because they both had good, impressive
performances. Do not have them fight a number one contender fight.
That's some. I saw people saying like Anderson should have to fight Reyes. I was like, what? Why?
Why won't people give that man his credit? He did. They said he wasn't exciting. He brings some excitement. Now, he needs to do this now. Why won't they?
I think I will. Okay, part of it too is that I'll mention a couple other things. So Corey, by the way, always a good interview. I always enjoy talking to him. But I think what hurt his stock was the fact that he was going the distance in these fights. Like he was beating Latifi and Glover and all these guys, but he went the distance. So it's a tougher sell, I think, to get a title shot when you're constantly doing that. Like even Dominic Reyes, that was his knock heading into the Weidman fight, was that he was not finishing these opponents like for the last couple fights, and then he goes out there and finishes Weidman. And I think the other part of it, do you remember that whole thing with John Jones that he did at that, I think it was like an awards thing or something, that's some charity thing, and he tried to crash Jones's thing and it just did not turn out well at all. So that I think hurt as well too. So I don't blame the guy for trying. I think he absolutely has deserved his shot. But I think people, if you're not finishing opponents, and again, they got to look at the quality of opposition too. I think that's an easy way for fans to use that as an excuse not to give you an opportunity. But he absolutely deserved to after what he did last night.
100%, man. Yeah, it was a good win for him, and obviously he let out a lot of that frustration in the moment.
I think that was career. I don't think it was. I don't want to say career defining, but that's his career defining moment up until this point in his career.
100%.
It's more than just a good win, because the fact that he was an underdog and he had way more credentials, and then the way he finished them. Because if I was going to fight, I thought he would be able to catch him, hurt him, end up getting a nice dominant win. I didn't think my man going to smoke my man in the first round and tell him about it.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy because the referee you really see when somebody knocks somebody out that the referee has to like get their whole body in front of them to hold them back after the person's knocked out. That's very rare. So it was kind of crazy. It was a good job by the referee because he was amped.
Yeah, no, it was. It was really cool to see, and you like seeing things like that, right? Like, there's this whole thing where I don't know what it is about fans sometimes. Like they pick their favorites, and like I remember I did a video, a few months back of where I was given 5 opponents for John Jones, and I sort of listed them, and I had Corey Anderson on there, and I got so much shit for that because people were like, oh, he's so boring. Why would he ever get a title shot? Oh, you should blah 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 this and that, and now he gets his win, and it's like I told you guys, like he's good. He's just fighting tough it's almost like two opposite cases. It's like Anderson fought really good competition and wasn't finishing, and Walker fought guys that were subpar and was finishing them. And it's like, it just shows you how like delusional fans are sometimes when it comes to that stuff.
And update too, who has John Jones finished in the last 3 years other than that DC head kick that got overturned?
Yeah, that's a good point too.
That didn't happen.
No. But so who has he finished? Like, people talk about that. John Jones is not finishing people no more.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because Jones, in the past had, and I think because he's got such an interesting style that people just sort of ignore that. But yeah, you're right. I do notice that. That's true. I don't see people giving him as much grief.
No, they don't. They give Jones a pass on everything, and that's just because of who he is. Because he came in the gate like he did, and finished all these Pride legends and everything. All the former.
He's reached God status. Am I right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like McGregor as well. Like
He
people
can do
talking
no
about him
wrong.
fighting and beating all these guys. It's like it doesn't matter. Like people, they have this image. It's what it is that fans have this image in their head of how a fighter is, and they just ignore everything else. Like any criticism, no, he's still that person in my eyes, right?
For sure, 100%. That's exactly what he is. A couple other notes. I mean, like, listen, the whole card, we're not going to talk about every fight on this card because we missed one very important thing that I want to go back to on the main card. But a couple of notes I want to run down real quick, things that stuck out to me. Edmund Shabazian is absolutely the best prospect in this game in the UFC.
Yeah.
And we now know who Valentina Shevchenko will be facing next. And
Yes.
I will say, although she didn't get a finish, I liked what Chukagian showed off defensively in that fight, which is what she will need to use, obviously, against Valentina. But I still think Valentina's going to win.
Yeah, because she doesn't take enough chances. She has to fight the same way with no mistakes and gamble.
Yeah, no, you actually, you hit that on the head, Kendrick. 100%. I completely agree. And then let's be honest, like, I don't think there's anyone in that division right now where you say, hey, like for example, at strawweight, I've said this before. I think Tatiana Suarez, she does things where you think that if she did fight for a title, she could win because she has sort of that X factor. I don't think anyone at flyweight is like that. Nothing against Chukagian, great win last night, looked good, but there's nothing in her game that sort of goes that extra mile where you think she could do something different or could provide some danger to Valentina at this point. But I think it'll be competitive. I don't see, it being like this, because people are just, again, they're so in love with, what a specific fighter is in Valentina's case, where, she knocked out Jessica Ai and she's, dominated all these fights. But you never know. Styles always make fights. I remember Alexander Gustafsson years ago when he fought John Jones for the first time. Everyone was same sort of thing, run of the mill opponent, and he surprised some people. So we'll see what happens there. And I think the interesting thing too is that Chukagian, was offered the title fight against Valentina. If you remember, they pulled Liz Carmouche off of her fight with Roxanne Modafferi to fight Valentina in the Uruguay card. It was supposed to be Caitlin's fight, but Caitlin was getting married. So obviously she couldn't cancel that. So she had to get married. And then she was like, hey, can I still get Valentina? They're like, no, you got to take another fight. So she had to fight Maya. So she could have lost her spot, so to speak. And so she obviously got that and took out Jennifer Maya. Now, quickly, Edmund Shabazian, I was so impressed with this. First off, if you've never interviewed him, I don't think that guy ever frowns. He's always happy. 21 years old. The fact that he finished Tavares in the first is so impressive. Tavares has been finished before, but the last guy to finish him in the first round was Robert Whittaker. Like, think about that. And think about the fact that Tavares, who was injured, went the distance with Izzy, and Shabazian finishes him in the first round. Like, this is a guy that we're going to be talking about potentially fighting for its title at some point next year, I would think. Just the way he's going.
That early?
If he keeps doing what he's doing, man, he threw out one of my favorite techniques, man.
He definitely got my attention, though, for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, when it comes to ladies, have you thought about, like, I don't really care for the way she fights, somebody like Macy Barber, but that type of style is going to be the person that gives Valentina. They're going to have to just make it a war. Like, everything that we talk about technically, don't do it and just throw down and bite down. That's the type of person that's going to have to, not necessarily it's her, but that's the type of style that's going to be the one that neutralizes Valentina's skill. It's got to be not even an MMA fight. I'm just going to make it a street fight. I'm going to do everything. Kind of how Chael did Edison Silva at his peak powers. He just made it a street fight. He was wrestling a lot. Somebody like that is going to have to be the person to take down Valentina. You can't get in the skill competition because you will get embarrassed. It's like
it's interesting
right
you brought
now.
You brought up Macy because she wants to be the youngest champion, and so does Edmund. Edmund's 21 years old. I think he's turning 22 later this year. So it's interesting to see if either of those fighters will achieve that goal, because they certainly bring something to the table that's a little bit different. With Macy, I was so impressed with her win in the last fight because Jillian Robertson is no joke. She's really like Robinson's like no joke at all. And I think the way Macy was talking, it looked like it was a situation where she was primed to get to lose that fight, but she does the complete opposite. I'd like to see Macy get one more fight like that where she does that type of performance again, because the fight before that, I think it was JJ Aldrich, she didn't look great in that one. Yeah. And I know there's some issues. She was training at a different camp, but if Macy can get wins like she has there, I completely agree with you.
But tell me this though, she says she wants to be the youngest champion, but then she wants to fight Paige Van Zandt, who had five.
Okay, so I can explain that actually, because
is Paige even ranked still? I don't know.
No, she's not. But here's what people are not getting. Okay, flyweight's such a wide open division right now, where I think if Macy had called out, say, Lauren Murphy, okay, let's say she called out Lauren Murphy. Lauren's ranked. Whatever, you beat Lauren. Is that beating Lauren Murphy would not, in the eyes of fans and sort of the media and everything, would not mean as much as if you beat Paige, because Paige is a bigger name than Lauren. Even though Paige is not ranked, it's one of those fights where it's like you just beat this person. It's it's relevant in our minds. It was a bigger fight. Like if Macy fights Lauren Murphy and Macy fights Paige Van Zandt, which is going to be the bigger fight? It's going to be Paige, just because there's been all this back and forth. Paige is a bigger name. More people know who she is. I think, believe it or not, while she's not ranked, I think that actually is a bigger fight, and that could actually get her further ahead, because like I said, flyweight's still a wide open division. Like Macy could win like 2-3 fights. She could fight for a title. You never know. It's still a relatively new division. That's why I think she went that route, as opposed to calling out someone else, because there just aren't enough names in that division, if that makes sense.
So correction, she is ranked 15th now.
Okay, gotcha.
I think that happened obviously because of
the call. Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, yeah. Kind of weird how that works, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? But I think, if she wants to be the youngest champion, like there's still names that could draw a lot of interest. Like I think, like you got a Andrea Lee out there, you got a Joanne Calderwood. For whatever reason, everybody loves Joanne Calderwood every time she steps in there. Not saying that she's a bad fighter, but I think people kind of overvalue her skills a little bit. That's just me. That's just my opinion.
But here's the thing though. Do you think Macy finishes either of those opponents?
I don't think KGB's too little, but I think she.
No, but that's what they'll use in the highlight reel. If she goes out there and fights Paige, I think she probably could not only beat Paige but finish her. You can add that to the highlight reel, and you can propel yourself up even further. It's like when McGregor fought. Actually, no, that's probably not a good example. But I just mean like you need sort of that name that you can beat. It's like, okay, here's a good example. Reyes when he beat Weidman, right? We all know that Weidman has potentially lost a step since the injuries and everything like that. But the fact that it was if Reyes fought like Jan Blachowicz, he's probably not finishing Jan in the first round, but he beat Weidman. So it's like one of those things where Weidman wasn't even ranked, but now we're talking about him with the title shot because Weidman's a former champion. He's a bigger name. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Is that like I see where Macy's coming from, where if she feels she could finish Paige.
For the whole marketing side of things, and like you're saying, building the video packages, yeah, she needs somebody like that. I think though, like obviously, like I always go to the whole merit bag. Where it's
100%.
Prove to me that you can compete against this skill set, and then we'll put you here. But the way you're talking is more like UFC in 2019. It's like, all right.
And I don't agree with that, but I'm just saying that's sort of where,
honestly, like you're more in line with how things are actually going in terms of this. Because, hey, I'm going to go out there and beat Instagram star, Dancing with the Stars, model, Paige Van Zandt, that always gets eyes no matter what.
Here's one more thing I'll just mention on that potential fight, because I think it is worth noting. So Paige is on the last fight in her deal, right? So she's coming off injuries, so it's a really important fight here. I think that fight could happen if the UFC's like, you know what? We don't think we're getting our money's worth with Paige, and we'll let her go to Bellator. If they feel that way, the UFC does, then I think you will see that fight happen, because they love Macy. I mean, seems like every event I go to, she's like a guest fighter or she's around or something. So I think that could happen. But if the UFC feels like they can still get something else out of Paige, whether they see something in her or they feel like they can market her, then I think that fight absolutely does not happen, and Paige gets a layup.
But Macy, though, as good of a fighter she is, she's not a true mixed martial artist. And you brought the name of who could be somebody that be a champ. You know me, I'm all about legacy. Is our girl Tatiana, because she's still hurt right now. But every time I talk to her through text or you see her videos, she's talking to people saying she don't got no hands. So she's sharpening up that hole in her game. If she has above average hands with the elite wrestling and elite jiu-jitsu, and with that frame that she got, that she can go 125, 115. She gonna be a problem in 2 different weight classes.
And you know what bothers me so much about people criticizing her is, they talk about the last fight with Ansarov. She had a neck injury.
She had no business being in there.
Yeah, she shouldn't have fought.
Think about that. She had a neck injury. Her bread and butter is wrestling. if you have a neck injury, just think that's like taking away one of your biggest weapons. Like the fact that she even won that fight is pretty crazy. If you think of how good Nina was even heading into that fight, right. That just to me goes even further to show how legit she is. And no need to rush her. I know that people are saying, oh, she should get the next title shot. Like let Joanna and all these other people and Zhang and Rose and all these people let them figure that out. And when Tatiana is 100% healthy, she will be a champion. I'm almost positive that's going to happen.
All right,
I want to see JJ fight one more. I want to see JJ beat 2-time. I don't know why. I just want to see that story.
Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? But okay, real quick, we need to go back to the thing I said I wanted to go back to on the main card that we didn't talk about.
Let's do it.
And it goes to the co-main event where the most ridiculous scorecard reared its head, where one judge gave every round to Kelvin Gastelum. Like, what fight was he watching? He had to get the names mixed up somehow. I don't know how you get the Mexican and the UK guy mixed up. I mean, the names are pretty obvious.
I couldn't believe that. That is one of the worst scorecards I've ever seen in watching this sport as long as I have. That is one of the worst. Like, how on earth would that's what I think happened. I honestly think it was like red corner, blue corner. You got the fighter mixed up. I'll mention this quickly. This actually happened to me. I was not judging, but I was doing commentary for the last event, and I actually got the fighters mixed up. So I was starting to describe it, and then my broadcasting partner was like, "Oh no, it's the other guy." And I was like, "Oh shoot, okay, my bad."
Hey, I've been there. I've been there in my commentary days. My first show I did that on like one of the early fights, but we got it fixed, and it was like, all right, that's a learning moment right there. So hey, I try not to judge the commentators when they make little flubs.
James,
like
I agree with y'all 1,000%, but I kind of like the guy. I can watch it a fight, the broadcast without sound, because like we saw when we were there live anyway. So I don't have to listen to Joe Rogan and them on the call.
Because there can like if you watch, for example, Chris Cyborg and Felicia Spencer, like the way they were describing that fight was that Spencer was like made it a close fight.
So I didn't hear that, but I heard people talk about that. But one thing that they said that makes sense is that, like, especially since MMA is all about being different than boxing, is have the judge post that card, like post the score, and it's on the scoreboard, so the corner know, the fighters know, the arena know, and there's some accountability up in here.
Yeah.
Like
I agree. They used to do that back, and Bellator does that, I believe. I think Big John actually puts his scorecards up.
No, I'm talking about the official judges, the real.
Oh, people. The official ones. Yeah. No, I'm talking about
those guys, the anonymous people.
Well, I mean, the crazy thing is that obviously we know their names after the fact once the scorecard gets posted. But the thing is, like, we don't hear any accountability after the fact. We don't hear any discipline.
They be anonymity after the fight. They're in anonymity.
Like, there's got to be some sort of, like, disciplinary action. Like, all right, you got to go back to class for 2 months after that scorecard or something. You know what I'm saying?
Like referees, if they screw up, they get pulled from assignments, or like, they don't ref again. The same should be with the judges. I 100% agree.
Or
with
at the very least,
different from boxing. So even though they do open scoring here in Texas, leave it to Texas to be the state that do something backwards. Quick cut the boxing, because the first fight I went to Canelo's. If you ever remember, they call it the Canelo Shuffle. He's fighting Austin Trout, and he does a little moonwalk, and he throws a little combination, and the fans went crazy. Canelo knew he was up by 3 rounds on the scorecards because it was an open scoring. It got announced. It wasn't on the scoreboard, but all the people, his corner and the other corner, knew. So that's why he could clown like that. Something like that, even though it's rare in boxing, if that was a norm in MMA, it would be a game changer.
Yeah, I agree.
At the very least, like, we should at least get a moment backstage with the judges after the fights are over. What the hell
and
were you
explain
thinking?
their scorecards. How did you get
watching?
30? Yeah.
How did you arrive at this score? How did you arrive at 30-27 for Kelvin Gastelum? Yes. We need some sort of accountability. We need something. We don't have anything right now.
They should have a pool reporter like they do the NBA officials. That's how they do the NBA officials. There's a random pool reporter, and now you get quotes from controversial endings. So something like that, that would be acceptable versus like you see these people's faces and stuff on camera, because you don't see that in NBA referees, but there's a pool reporter and usually talk to the lead official about whatever 100%. Call.
Yeah, man. So, James, anything else that stood out to you, I guess, in your experience in New York, not necessarily fight-related, but experience-related in NYC this week?
Yeah, it was just it's one of those mega cards where you see every bit of media out there. It's just because I did the Boston card, a few weeks ago, and granted that's a fight night card, but just the difference in media presence was crazy. New York's great. I can't stay there for too long. Like, it was starting to get to the point, like, towards the end of the fight week where I was like, man, like, I'm kind of done with this because there's just a lot to do. Like, there's a lot going on. We had the 245 presser on the Friday, Saturday. We had the Rock presser. We had, all that. It was a lot of late nights, but, I love doing fight week, but I'm so glad I get like a nice gap in between there. My next event's not till 2:45 on the 14th. So it'll be nice to have a little bit of space in there. But yeah, as far as the rest of the week, like it was a cool week. Like a lot of just, there's a lot going on. It's just, it's New York. There's always stuff going on. So it was cool. I ate a lot of pizza. It was great.
Did you have a fan moment when you're, do you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Yeah. I posted on my Instagram. I definitely geeked out. Because I had a Rock T-shirt when I was a kid. I remember watching him when he made it sort of his push after he left the Nation of Domination, right? Like, that was, that was. I had the WWF video games.
Nation. Nation.
Yeah. Hey, I probably would have pro wrestling popped too if I was there. Just in case I would have stood up.
And it's cool because he stays in the middle of the aisle and he's like he's back in the Rock movie. He hit him with that belt.
that was cool. Like that made this week so much better. Like just knowing that I got to see The Rock. Like we didn't get to interview him, but just the fact that he was there and part of this huge event. Like that's not going to happen all the time. So to be a part of that fight was it's memorable. I mean, I've covered a lot of events, but that's definitely near the top of the list. Just getting to be at a mega event like this. To cover a big fight week card. So it was pretty cool. I will mention this though because you were talking about experience of the week. So I'll tell you exactly what happened when we checked in on yesterday for the card. So we all get in line. And this is annoying anyways. It is what it is because you're always fighting for the tripod spots, right in the back, Matt. You know what I'm talking about. Kendrick, too. So I'm like, you know what? I'll get there an hour early, right? I'll be like, I'll definitely get a good spot. I get there an hour early, and there's already half a line. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I thought I was ahead of the game here. So I was there an hour early. I still not even huge in line, but I did. So what they did was, because there's so much media, they had to split the line. So they took, luckily I was part of the first sort of wave of people, but they brought us in and they were kind of disorganized, but they're like, here, we have to take your bags. So they put the bags in another area and we had to sit there and wait. This probably went on for about a good 40 minutes. Jeez. And they had the dogs go around and we had to open up all of our bags and everything. And the dogs had to go like lassies, running around trying to see what's, if anyone's bringing anything explosive or whatever. And, so we're waiting around and then we had to go through the security line. Then we had to go back, grab our stuff, go back in, check in. And then here's the other kicker. They were so disorganized with how where the media room was and stuff. So I remember this guy was taking the first group of us up a couple stairs going through MSG because you know how big it is, right? And some guy's like, oh, I talked to Gus and he says we're going up here, and the guy's like, he never told me that. And these two guys are arguing. I'm like, I just want to get to my seat, dude. Come on, let's figure this out here. So we eventually got upstairs. We went up there and did everything, and then and I think because of the added security, the presser was supposed to be at the Hulu Theater, which is right next, sort of attached to MSG. But I think just with the logistics of security and everything like that, they actually kept everything just in the media room. So it was a bit of a tight squeeze later at night, but that was kind of interesting. I thought wow, we've got the Secret Service here, making sure no one's trying to ruin the fight. Yeah, so that's kind of
y'all got a real premier event, sports event the ESPY Awards, NBA Finals. Every game with the NBA Finals is just like that. That's the norm. That's what they do in real sports.
It's
But one thing about MSG,
you mean to tell me you got Secret Service at NBA events?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's because they know Kendrick's going. They were a bit worried.
Because they got those billionaire owners up in there. They got
that's true too. Yeah.
That's why I got the Cubans of the world. But I got me a train of thought. Oh, MSG. One thing that trips me out, and I didn't realize, because we got a full MSG tour. I was out there for the Triple G fight because they had the weigh-ins on one part. They had the outdoor workouts, and then they had us go up above MSG. I didn't realize it's a 5 different floors in the actual where we watch the fight and stuff. It's on the 3rd floor. It's not even on the ground level. I thought it was the most surreal thing. That's why you got these backwards ass elevators, because the elevators are backwards there.
Oh, no kidding. We couldn't actually, and they have a thing too where if you go down the escalator, you can't get back up. So we had to I had to convince me and a couple of the other media people had to convince them to let us use the VIP escalators just to get upstairs, because there's fans everywhere. We can't get back upstairs. It was crazy. So
and they go backwards because they're right in the middle of the damn arena, which is how you gonna be a VIP when it's and there's no anonymity. For instance, if you've ever been to Staples Center, that sucker is I've been in Staples Center about 10 times, and I just found out where it was last time I went there. That's how
interesting.
exclusive it is.
I've never been to Staples. Actually,
MSG,
hold on.
MSG, it's right there in the middle. There's no VIP, nothing VIP about that.
Yeah, I've only ever been to Honda or wherever the Anaheim Ducks play because I went to for Diaz and Pettis.
Bad memories from my guy here. Bad memories.
Yeah, we don't get to talk about me getting robbed every time we talk about.
Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, man. Let's wrap it up, James. Man, we appreciate your time coming on and sharing your New York experience, the BMF experience, so to speak, and nice to hear from you as always, man. We appreciate you.
The BMF.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me on. It's like literally, like I remember Kendrick messaged me. I was like, yeah, you know, it's been a little bit. You guys had me on maybe a month ago or something like that. But I always love doing the show. Love seeing you guys getting praised. Like I referenced the Corey Anderson thing. Like I love seeing that where I've talked about your guys' show before, where you guys really get those relationships with the fighters and they really like enjoy coming on. And I love seeing that where like people are taking the extra time to get those different questions. Like you see the guests that you guys get on and you get the rapport there, and I love seeing that. So just keep up the great work, and thanks for having me on, man.
See, the difference is we got like maybe like 5 or 10 guys like that. You have about 100 like that. So we're just trying to catch up to your numbers,
a little bit. Yeah, that's awesome.
We'll have you on at the last podcast of the year when we do our year in review, because you definitely one of our go-to people. Because I appreciate this thing on the daily.
Should I wear a tuxedo? Is it like an awards thing or what?
I mean, you can.
We ain't thought about that yet. We ain't thought about that. That'd be kind of
Kendrick, why are you not? Remind me again why you're not going to 245. You're boxing or something going on?
I'll be at MSG. I'll be at the TFE.
Oh, that's right.
And the Terrence Crawford fight. But yeah, when we get off, I gotta tell you some stuff.
Okay, sounds good, man.
All right. There he is, guys. James Lynch breaking down UFC 244 and all the good things. Follow him at Lynch on Sports. Subscribe to The Score on YouTube. And appreciate the time, James, as always.
Anytime, man.